Before we begin, I want to take a moment to remind you about the upcoming Moving Titan Retreat, October 2nd through the 4th in Tampa, Florida. This will be the only large-scale independent moving conference in North America this year, and you are not going to want to miss this opportunity to hear from 8- and 9-figure moving and home service entrepreneurs and experts while masterminding with up to 500 moving company owners. We're bringing back Tommy Mello, Sean Crane, and Reagan Weiss for 2.5 days, and this isn't going to be some motivational rah-rah event. We are specifically focusing on tactical strategies that you can immediately take home and start multiplying your business headed into the fall and winter. And make sure that you never have another slow winter and off-season again. We'll have more networking opportunities, more vendors setting up displays, and a full-day workshop on day 3 where you can work directly one-on-one with Tommy and the other speakers to dial in your business. There might even be some surprise guests and entertainment. But don't wait to lock in your tickets. Early bird tickets are the lowest they will ever be, and prices go up July 1st. Visit movingtitanretreats.com. That's movingtitanretreats.com. Or check the link in the description and lock in your tickets before prices go up or before we sell out. We'll see you there. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into this Ask Me Anything live stream. I got some questions here, so we'll wait for some folks to join, but I am actually recording this as our next podcast. Didn't have a guest this week, so figured I would create a little bit of content with some people that like to listen to the podcast or just might have some questions. We invited our team at Two College Brothers to tune in on this, so anybody with 2CB can ask away too. And thank you all for any questions that you may have submitted on the Facebook post or through the Instagram story. Feel free to drop some more questions in the chat here. We'll see what all I can get to. I may not be able to get to everything, but happy to answer any questions that might be at the top of your mind, and hopefully I can help. You know, I'm on this journey just like everybody else, and learned a lot through the last 12 years of experience and reading a lot of books and doing the Moving Titan retreats and the masterminding and the podcast and the mentorship. So hopefully I can help some people out with some issues that they're dealing with right now, and just kind of talk about what it's like running a moving company for those of you who don't also own moving companies. So let's go ahead and kick it off. Looks like Jess actually just asked a question. How do you balance training 5+ days a week, eating clean, and owning multiple businesses? That's a great question, Jess. Sometimes I'm a little off balance. And that's kind of on purpose though, because that's just, my mind is all over the place. I mean, call it ADHD or whatever, but I enjoy, doing it all, trying to do it all. At least sometimes, maybe I bite off a little more than I can chew. But, as far as balancing the training, I'm trying to get better at working out in the mornings. The thing is, like, mornings are my creative time. A lot of days, I'd say 3 or 4 days a week, I'll get up between 4 and 5 a.m. and, do a little bit of reading, journal, just clear my head, plan out the day, and see, what's the priority for the day. I don't eat breakfast, really. I'll have like a protein shake typically. Just really not that hungry in the morning. I've kind of conditioned myself to intermittent fast, so that takes one meal off the table, so to speak, no pun intended. But yeah, meal prepping, I try to keep it simple. I'll order ground turkey, ground beef, try to get grass-fed or free-range when possible. Eggs, egg whites are great for protein, although the yolk of the egg is also really good. I've learned a lot through the Unstoppable 365 program on tracking macros, which is something that I didn't typically do in the past. And, a few days a week, I'll get, 3 days worth of groceries, try to cook up a whole bunch of stuff, put it in some glass containers in the fridge so that it's ready to go. But I'm not perfect. I'll still eat out from time to time. I'll sometimes indulge on some things that are good because you got to live. But as far as the training goes, usually get my workout in the evenings because I like to reserve that time in the mornings for just getting clear on what my day is going to be, doing some creative projects, this morning I made a reel comparing the cost of U-Haul trucks to hiring us as a moving company. Just was feeling some inspiration, went to a Starbucks around 6 this morning to get some work done. Just other than that, just being really diligent and intentional with my time. I now have an assistant, Ela, who helped me put this live stream together and compiled all the questions that people have asked so far. And so that's certainly helped a lot. Getting an assistant has been great. We're talking to Derek Shaw about his VA company. We're going to get some VAs to help out with a lot of different things. Just trying to delegate anything that I don't have to necessarily do all by myself. That's super important. Blocking off time. I get a lot of people that want to talk on the phone or reach out and have conversations. And I try to make sure that they schedule time most of the time through my scheduling link, and blocking off certain times on the calendar when I'm not available. Trying to work remotely if it's anything that I have to focus on, go to a coffee shop or just work from home, because it's really, really easy to get distracted at the office. So unless I have meetings or am doing a podcast because I have my setup here, or just want to be around the team and don't have anything that requires a ton of focus or creativity, then I'll absolutely come into the office. But yeah, just time. I'd say, to answer your question, just time blocking. Been working on the evenings, probably going to start trying to get a few workouts a week in the morning, maybe get that routine, because I know how good I feel after a workout. And I know that'll tee me up for a great productive day. And then just trying to meal prep every 3 days or so, just cooking a bunch of food and having it ready to go. Keeping it simple. Greek yogurt makes a great snack, mixed with some protein powder, bananas, fruit, blueberries. Try to buy a lot of the same stuff just to make it as simple as possible. And multiple businesses, it all comes down to just having great team members. I've got partners with the Moving Titan stuff. Chad, John, Faith is super helpful. We just hired a full-time salesperson for those companies. And that, takes a lot off my plate. We just have weekly meetings. And then 2CB, we've got, different departments that we've just got a great team at Two College Brothers, and just trying to be intentional with the time and time blocking. So good question there. I got a question from Froggy on the MJ Morning Show. Do radio ads work? And I can absolutely positively tell you that radio ads work for the MJ Morning Show. Before MJ, so in Tampa, we have this radio morning show called the MJ Morning Show. MJ, Froggy, Fester, Roxanne, and the team, they've been doing it since like the mid-90s. Used to listen to them on my way to school, and they've built a huge following. And so that works in our market. But we've tried advertising in other ways on the radio over the years. We've run commercials. We even made a song. If you find it on YouTube, you can find Two College Brothers rap from the radio. We've tried to do other talk shows in some of the different markets. And historically, they have not worked, but the MJ Morning Show has worked very, very well. And that's been a great partnership. We've been working on with them since 2022, over 2 years now. And the way that I think it's successful with that specific morning show is the host has a huge following. He's got 17,000 followers on Instagram, maybe more by now. It's really entertaining, but they've been around forever. They've built a big following. And he gives us a live endorsement every day, different times throughout the morning show from between 6 and 10 a.m. And that's been super successful for us. And it was one of those things where it was like, let's try it. I love this show. I've been a fan since high school. I mean, really before that, I used to listen to him on my way to school with my dad before I could even drive. And, that I think it's a kind of a special situation with how that radio works. Cause like I said, we've never had it work until we started getting that live read endorsement in the mornings. And I think part of what makes that work, not only his following, but it's on an 80s station. So it hits our demographic with people that listen to 80s music that may have stumbled across the show if they weren't a listener before. And he's just a trustworthy person. People trust what he has to say. And he also has an offer that he reads off when he does our endorsement. So he says, if you mention me, MJ, you'll get a whole stack of free moving boxes delivered right to your door. And so people want to redeem that offer of the free moving boxes. And so they definitely make sure to tell our sales team, our moving consultants, that they heard about us on the MJ Morning Show. Then they check out our Google reviews. We're almost at 1,000. So if you're listening to this, we'd love to get a Google review from you to hit that 1,000 mark. We're trying to hit that here by the end of the month for Tampa. And then sometimes they'll see other marketing. They'll see the trucks. They'll get a postcard in the mail. We started the door knocking campaign. And so I had a customer call me the other day. He received boxes from our door knocking campaign. He got a postcard, and then he heard about us on MJ Morning Show. And then he asked his realtor, and it happened to be a realtor that I had coffee with. So a lot of different angles there. But that specific radio ad works really well for us. I think we pay about $4,000 a month for that live endorsement once a day during the week. And I think last month we booked over 50,000 from it. So it's good ROI. So that radio ad works, but I don't recommend radio for everybody. It needs to be a well thought out, well chosen one. I actually just learned a lot about radio demographics in a book that I just read by Dan Kennedy called the No BS Grassroots Marketing. So check that out. It talks about if you're thinking about doing radio, to look at different types of demographics, and it really breaks down like what those demographics mean. I see a question here from Dogwood Moving Company. After listening to Tommy at the retreat, I've implemented commission for my field captains on the job if the move is completed correctly. It's been going great. Have you tried commission to field workers? We don't give commission to our moving crews. However, we do performance pay with them. We give them a bonus for reviews that they get. And we also do something that we call brother bucks, which are basically a play on mover bonus points. If you guys follow Louis Massaro, you probably know what the mover bonus point system is. And we will once a month tally up a few different pieces of criteria. And that's kind of evolved over time. It's not exactly like how Louis talks about it, but it's a thing that works. It's consistent, and it gives the guys something to work for. I believe how it's set up. If they get a review, they get 10 brother bucks. If they, do everything they're supposed to do, they get $1 for every hour that they work. If they have a damage claim, though, they're at risk of losing all of their brother bucks for that month. So it's a good way to try to keep guys, from preventing claims, from preventing unhappy customers. There's a few other things that could disqualify them from brother bucks, like a truck damage or, no call, no show, stuff like that. I'll have to get the exact specifics on what the criteria is right now, but it definitely is performance pay. I think the Tommy Mello, thing that he talked about with the commissions on jobs, it basically comes down to performance pay. And I strongly believe in performance pay for every role in the company that it makes sense for. So good question on that. But other than that, they get their hourly rate plus tips. I mean, they're incentivized by tips. Every mover's incentivized by tips. So that's pretty standard across the entire industry, and definitely something to harp on with your guys on how they can earn better tips. But the brother bucks is a way for us to basically tip them for doing a good job as well. Most of you have heard me talk about Moversville and the power of their email marketing service that has helped us increase leads by over 112% over the last year. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services and lists like insurance providers, softwares, equipment suppliers, marketing sources, and much, much more. The best part, this resource is free. Go check out Moversville Connect today by going to moversville.com and clicking Connect. That's moversville.com and click Connect and discover the world of Moversville beyond email.
One of the worst parts about owning a moving company has to be finding quality movers and drivers. Trying to run all the job ads takes up time, and then you schedule guys to come in for interviews and they never show up. It's a massive headache. Well, let me tell you about a good friend of mine named Winston who runs a company called Move Up Consulting. Move Up specializes in hiring and recruiting for the moving and storage industry, and they do all the lead generation for mover and driver candidates. They have a fully built hiring CRM, plus you get a dedicated account manager who phone interviews and screens all of your candidates. Once they find qualified candidates, they schedule in-person interviews for you and your management team so you can make great hires. They even handle all the appointment confirmations. It's that simple. To start building a better moving team today, visit moveupconsulting.com and tell them Wade sent you.
Want to know what the silver bullet for growing your business is? USA Home Listings. USA Home Listings has a myriad of marketing services that are essential to every single moving company. It blows my mind when I have conversations with people who reach out looking for help
trying to get leads, trying to get the phone to ring, that aren't doing mailers and aren't subscribed to USA home listings. The data there is so invaluable. And it's not just home listing data, even though that's an awesome, super easy, super intuitive feature that they provide where you can filter out all the homes that recently went under contract or got listed in your neighborhood, and a new coming soon feature before it even hits the MLS that you can filter out through zip codes, towns, cities, counties, prices. But that's just one small feature that they do. They also have turnkey mailing services. They'll help you design your postcard, a postcard that actually gets results. If you've tried mailers in the past and it didn't work, it's probably because you didn't have the right elements on your postcard. And they also have a social media division. So check out usahomelistings.com. It's an essential addition to all of your marketing needs. Before you do any other marketing, check out usahomelistings.com.
Zane, what's your net profit margin? How have they fluctuated through growth phases, plateaus, and market fluctuations? Oh man, this is a good one because it hasn't always been pretty. I think last summer we were running low, like 5 to 8% last summer. And we were in heavy growth mode. We were growing at like 100% year over year in Tampa during the COVID boom. And then when things kind of fell off the table in August, September of last year, to heading out of the busy season, it forced us to dig in deep to our operation, because we just worked so hard all summer for very little reward. And what I found, I talked about this a little bit at the last retreat, is that we just got comfortable. Like, we were overstaffed in the office. We had every driver, pretty much every person with any authority in the company had an American Express card. Don't know what I was thinking with that. I just finished reclassifying over 40,000 transactions from 2023. And some of the stuff I saw on the drivers' American Express cards just made me want to throw up. And so we took those all away, basically took hold of all the spending power, cut the team about pretty much in half, weeded out any marketing that wasn't being productive. And I took full control of the checkbook and the cards, and we saw the profit margins jump way up. Now, it was kind of digging out of a little bit of hole, so it doesn't feel like it sometimes, but I just ran some numbers, and for April and May, it looks like actually running over a 30% profit margin, which we kind of had to do because we were digging out of a hole from the drastic slowdown that, as a lot of people have experienced, over the last year and a half. And we didn't really feel it until like last September, when we were just we just got through our busy season and we don't have a whole lot to show for it. And it forced me to tighten things up, to fill the holes in the bucket. And now we're just running lean and mean, and we're a moving machine, and, big things ahead. So we cut the growth. I mean, we were, like I said, growing like 100% year over year, spending too much on marketing, too overstaffed, taking on every move we could, renting trucks, paying a lot of movers, having a lot of claims. And when we really dialed that in, we dropped our claims significantly. We weeded out the unproductive team members, or just the people that we didn't absolutely need. And the profit margin has gone way, way up, thankfully. But our sales are actually down from this time last year, about 10%. And lead volume is still down about 50% from where we were last year. So, still dealing with the interest rates and the market slowdown, but it's been a blessing in disguise because it's allowed us to really get dialed in and tighten up a lot of different things in the business to ultimately become a lot stronger and a lot more profitable. So, yeah, I mean, I say, if you're in a heavy growth phase and you're liquid, you can afford to run at a little bit of a less profit margin because you're growing, and ultimately you're going to end up making a lot more money. But when things slow down and things tighten up, I mean, you gotta be ready to make those cuts and dig in and just get lean. And this is the time in the industry to just be as lean as possible and not get too comfortable, get a very strong pulse on your business and fill up any of those holes, because it'll make you a lot stronger in the long run. And, even with sales down a little bit, all that really matters is the profits. They say revenue for vanity, profits for sanity. So, great question, Zane. I'd say if you're able to grow in a position liquid, then you can make calculated risks. I know Tommy Mello talks about, or was talking about in 2018. I'm going back and listening to all of Tommy Mello's podcasts because it's basically his diary of what took him from a $10 million company to a $200 million company. In his early podcast, he was saying he was spending over 20% in marketing. I don't know what he's spending now, but that's a high spend for marketing. And, sometimes you have to lay the blueprint for that growth and that foundation and hire people that you don't necessarily need right away. But I also like to say, run your business as if it's the slowest month of the year all year round. That was a lesson I've learned over the last year. If we can be profitable in January, we're going to be very profitable in the summer if we run the business the same way. And I'm sure, it'll go through seasons. We'll probably, start to rebuild that liquidity pool and be able to have another big growth spurt. And hopefully the interest rates drop at a good time as we head out of the busy season right before the election. And we kind of have a second wave of a busy season. And that'll just kind of carry us through the end of the year. That's what I'm hoping for at least, but you never really know. And big lesson I learned is to run every month, as if it was January, as if it was the slowest month of the year. And you're basically guaranteed to be profitable in that regard and then slowly grow over time. If you can afford to grow in a month like January and still be profitable, then you're going to be a lot more profitable in the summertime. So yeah, good question there, Zane. Let's see. I see a couple other questions. Ed Whitehouse, do you have any suggestions on recruitment, both for the movers and foremen as well as outside sales? Hit up Winston. Winston with Move Up Consulting. That's what they do is they recruit. They find and place really good people. Personally, full disclosure, I don't work with Winston on that regard right now because we do have somebody in-house that handles all of that. We've got Ashley, who is our former chief of raving fans. Now she oversees our current chief of raving fans, and she's our chief of staff. A big role of hers is franchise support, but also HR, process development. She kind of is almost like a vice president of our company in that sense. And she does all of the recruiting now for us so that we don't outsource that currently. But I know Winston has a great team. He does a great thing. And I've known a lot of movers that have worked with him. So I'd say if you're not in a position to bring in your own full-time HR/process development/recruiting, onboarding, training person, then Winston's a great option to outsource some of that stuff. But, it's a numbers game. You might go through 30 applications. You might like half of them. You might reach out to half, and then you might schedule interviews for half of them. So 8. You might take those 8, and then you might get 3 or 4 that actually show up to the interview. And then out of that 3 or 4, you might only have 1 or 2 that'll actually last. The key is to just always be recruiting. Always be looking to hire and onboard good talent, looking to replace your weakest links. Basically, don't get chained, don't get handcuffed to your existing team because A, that's going to stunt your growth. It's going to bottleneck you from being able to take on more moves. But B, it forces you to have to basically let the inmates run the asylum sometimes. And that's not a good place to be. You want to be ready to replace people who fall off the bus, who aren't doing what they need to be doing and following the processes and the procedures. And the only way to do that is to consistently be looking for good talent to replace your weakest link. I forget, there's a term for that, like top grading, I think is what it's called. The people that are rock stars that are A players, you want to keep them as A players. If they start to drop into B players, they need to know that their job is at stake because there's an A player ready to take it or somebody willing to work their way into the rotation. And so, we use a program called Bamboo HR. Ashley runs that. So I don't know everything about Bamboo HR, but I know it's a great program. It allows us to post job advertisements across all the major platforms like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, and then just being on the lookout for any good talent. I was at a coffee shop recently wearing my 2 college brothers' hat and shirt, and the owner of the coffee shop happened to be working, and he asked if I had, if this was my company. I was like, yeah. He's like, oh man, I got a couple big guys that are looking for work right now. I was like, hey, awesome, send them over. If you get great experience somewhere out in the field, say you're at a restaurant or at a bar and you've got really good service from the server or the bartender, or it could even be, at Chick-fil-A, whatever. Ask those people, hey, are you or anybody that you know looking for a career shift or looking for another opportunity or even a part-time gig? If they're doing a great job at their existing place of employment, chances are they're going to do a great job for you, or they hang around people who share similar values and similar work ethics, because A players like to hang out with other A players. And, maybe they're not happy with where they're currently at, or, they're looking for another part-time type of a job, or you just could offer a better opportunity for them. And you just look for those people in the community. Let people know, let your referral partners know. I was at a networking event last night and I met a mortgage broker, and he's like, yeah, I got a friend who's like thinking about starting a moving company, but he doesn't have any moving experience. And I was like, hey, we'd be happy to give him a shot. Maybe see if he actually wants to start his own company. But we need summer help. We need drivers right now. So, have them apply. And it's just putting the word out. It's letting people know that you're hiring. Do all the Indeed, do the ZipRecruiter, look through LinkedIn, look through Facebook, play that numbers game just constantly, even if you don't think you need people, so that you can add people to the list. But yeah, just always be on the lookout for great talent when you're out and about in the community.
In case you haven't already heard about it, I want to tell you about the latest project that I've been working on called Tighten Up Training. And it's not just me, it's 3 other world-class moving company owners from around North America that have pooled together our resources, our time, and our knowledge to bring you the #1 training program for moving companies in the world. We've got over 200 videos on mover training, sales, culture, leadership, and we're continuing to add more and more to streamline training. We gamify the process in short little videos that are easy for your team to follow, and they're quizzed on retention. Rather than spend hundreds of thousands of dollars of your own money and months of your time tying up resources away from your own moving company, we're bringing you Tighten Up Training for less than the cost of 1 damage claim a month, or less than the cost of booking 1 extra move per month. You book 1 extra move, it pays for itself. You save the time to have to take away time from your day or pay somebody to train new employees and to onboard new employees, it pays for itself. You avoid 1 damage claim or book 1 extra move a month, you got it. It pays for itself. It's so affordable. And we put so much time, money, and resources into this to build out something that our companies can use every day so that we can tighten up this summer and reduce claims. Since our company has gone on here, we're booking more jobs than ever, and we're reducing more claims than we've ever had. And we are teed up to have the best summer ever. So check out Tighten Up Training. Schedule a free 30-minute demo today by going to tightenuptraining.com.
We got Crozer49. What are some steps I can take to increase lead volume, take my company to the next level? Second year in business, did 110K last year and really want to become a dominator and grow this thing. I'm wondering if C. Roser is also somebody who commented on my Facebook post earlier, Connor Rose. That sounds like it's probably the same person. But yeah, no, great question. Increase lead volume. I mean, get the fundamentals down for getting leads in the moving industry. Postcards are great. For the last several years, it's been one of our top producers of new leads. You want to design a good postcard that resonates with your ideal client, show pictures of an older demographic, ideal, happy customer on it. Put your credentials on there. If you've got a 5-star Google rating, put, call to action on there, put offers that people can call in to redeem, like senior and veteran discounts or free boxes or free storage, some kind of value add that's going to prompt them to pick up the phone and get a quote, and also tell you that they saw that specific piece of marketing because of that specific promotion that you put on there. There's a whole science behind direct mail postcards that I recommend reading Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, and then also the No BS Guide to Direct Response Marketing for Non-Direct Response Marketing Businesses. Those are 2 great books that I always recommend to people that are looking to design a great postcard. USA Home Listings does postcards. You've got a couple others out there that do postcards like turnkey, but at least get that listing data and send them out yourself. It's going to take probably about 60 days to build up a pipeline with the postcards. So just be aware of that. Don't give up. You have to be consistent, mail every day, or at least every other day, with the newly listed and the pendings that come onto the market. And eventually you'll start to see the phone ring if you've got a good postcard or a good mailer piece. There's other different mailer pieces, by the way. It doesn't have to be a postcard. There's now the AI machines or the handwriting printer machines that make it look like you can do a handwritten card or a handwritten note to somebody. You could type something up. There's another good book by Dan Kennedy called The Ultimate Sales Letter that teaches you how to write good copy for a sales letter. You could send packages. You can, I just talked to somebody the other day that's sending packages, little boxes to houses. So that's, definitely do postcards. Check out USA Home Listings. Eric Works, Greg Shepard. Looks like Eric just commented. And they can do turnkey with that. And then, Google LSA, we were running into this with our San Antonio location that just opened up, and the housing market just really wasn't moving very quickly in the off season with the interest rates and all that. So he was looking for some other ways, and he's been pounding the pavement every single day. But we, for the first time, really turned on LSA, Google LSA. We use a company called Ferocious Media for Google LSA, and it was like a switch flipped and phones started ringing. Now he's booking jobs every day. And so Google LSA is a very quick way to get your phone to ring and to get people on board. And then everything else is going to take time. I mean, I'd say Google LSA and direct mail postcards to get leads right off the bat. If you're already doing all that stuff, you can think about investing in SEO. That's a long-term play. It can take months, if not years, to rank with SEO. But once you do, it can be very powerful. Movers Search Marketing is who we use for our SEO. We've been working with them for, I think, about 5 years now, and they've done wonders for us with our SEO. But it takes time, and they're expensive, and it's not the fit for everybody, especially if you're just starting out with 2 trucks. But it's good to have the foundation set, create content, get backlinks, make sure your site is set up properly with the metadata. And then honestly, man, door knock, go door knocking. If you're not getting the results that you want from postcards or from your other efforts, door knocking is, it works. I started doing that back in April to test out a program after I did a podcast with Lenny Gray, who's the door-to-door millionaire, and he's going to be speaking at the next retreat. I did about 60 or 70 houses, and we got jobs out of it. And we hired a college student as a summer paid internship and sales internship. And he's already knocked over 800 doors. I think he's coming up on 1,000, and we're booking jobs from it. And it's aggressive. It can be a little uncomfortable at first, but if you go there as a bringer of good news, you saw the house was for sale, you bring them a free box to get started with their packing, leave a good sales letter, a good card, a good brochure. It takes a lot of work and it's a little uncomfortable, but you get past the uncomfortable part if you're doing it the right way. All you want to do is be able to strike up a conversation with somebody, and that ultimately will hopefully lead to them giving you a call when their house sells and it's time to go. But, aside from those things, build relationships in your community. When the slowdown happened and lead volume dropped drastically with the interest rates in the housing market, we got our whole team on a business development plan where we all started reaching out to new business development partners. We hired somebody on Upwork to create a list of like 1,000 different people in our community: realtors, mortgage brokers, property managers, restoration companies, flooring companies, anything that could possibly need movers or be a referral partner for movers. And we started to dig deep into building those relationships. During COVID, got lazy, stopped going to all the networking groups, stopped doing the proactive outreach and sitting down with realtors for coffee and sponsoring their events and bringing lunch to their offices and doing the presentations. But as soon as we started doing that, like with an organized, consistent daily effort across the whole team, our affiliate and word of mouth business just went straight up. So even though lead volume is overall down, our booking percentages and our bookings are actually about on par with where they were last year with twice as many leads. And that's because they're quality leads. And when you have relationships in your community, it just makes those leads so much easier to convert to jobs. You can charge higher prices when somebody comes, and you don't have to play the price game and be the lowest bidder like you do with some other marketing sources, because they come so warmly referred, they don't even want to talk to anybody else. And if they do, you already have a leg up because you all share a mutual contact in common that everybody knows that you're going to have to be held accountable, because otherwise you burn that relationship. So, make sure you're providing an amazing service, by the way, because nothing's worse than trying to build relationships if your service isn't 5 stars and you're not creating raving fans on 99% of your moves, because then the bad word is going to spread a lot faster. So definitely get out there, schedule coffee meetings, schedule realtor presentations, and just build a list. You could hire somebody on Upwork for $200 and they'll give you a list of thousands of potential referral partners, or just do it yourself. You can go on Google, you can pull the MLS data with all the realtor listings or your local realtor association or Zillow and find countless realtors in your market. I'm sure, I don't know what market you're in, but I'm sure there's probably thousands of realtors there, and get down to that grassroots. Because 10 years ago, the thing was, if you could have a great website that did well on Google and Bing and Yahoo and all those different search engines back in the day, or if you could put out a big Yellow Pages ad, if you could, do good social media stuff and post every day, that's what gave you an edge. But now all of that digital marketing stuff is now expected. And every company that's competing is going to have a strong digital footprint. And what's really going to separate people now is getting down on those grassroots levels and building the actual in-person relationships. Kind of like how it used to be before the internet. That's what people did before the internet, is they had to build those relationships, and then the internet came and people found an edge to get over their competition by being online. And now it's kind of come full circle, because now everybody's online. Everybody's trying to be the influencer, and everybody's trying to build the best website and compete for those SEO rankings. And, it's expected. It's not something you should neglect at all, but you have to take the extra mile and do the stuff that your competition isn't willing to do, like physically as the owner, getting out into your community and being a pillar of your community. And ultimately, that's going to be how you dominate your market. I mean, we could go do a realtor presentation tomorrow or Monday, I guess, and get a move right then and there for the $100 for some Chick-fil-A breakfast for the team. And somebody in that room has a client who's about to move. And if you do a good presentation, you can get a move almost right away. Same thing with coffee meetings. If you go and meet somebody face to face who is going to know people that are moving, that's a potential referral partner, you could get a move right there on the spot. One thing I found to be really successful too when doing both of those things is to have gift cards. And I'm trying to see if I have one laying around on my desk. I don't see one, but we made $50 gift cards, and it's almost like the next business card. You give somebody a gift card that's like a card stock that isn't a coupon. It has to be a gift card. And you hand that to somebody and they don't want to throw it away. They're either going to keep it in their wallet until they need it, or they know somebody that they can give it to. Realtors love to give gifts at closing. And if they can give a gift of a moving company, discount or something at closing, that's a great way to spread the word. Better than business cards, I think. So gift cards are really good. And for $50, they're going to spend more than $50 on their move. So you still stand to make a good profit, and you just call that $50 a marketing expense. And the cost to print a gift card is pretty cheap. I think you could probably get them done for like $1 a piece. So definitely recommend, if you want to dominate your market, is build relationships in your community. Find out who's who in your market. Subscribe to a local business journal, or follow the blogs on social media or online that tell you where the next developments are coming up, who's doing big things, and target those people and try to get in front of them. So let's see if there's any other questions here on the actual Instagram. I got a list of some that people submitted, if not. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at some of these questions. So Marcus Acamon. I've never heard you say your last name, Marcus, but let's see what you have to say. For business, I guess it is the scaling down and walking away from some roles. Might seem easy, but it's a hard one for some people to do, especially when they have held on tight since birth. For moving businesses, the importance of not only understanding your numbers, but being able to hit them, and some steps that help you stay within those parameters. Yeah. So, knowing your numbers is huge. KPIs are huge. KPIs, there's different ones that you're going to look at: daily, weekly, monthly. Daily, we look at our bookings from the day before. We look at the lead volume that came in. We look at talk times and outbound dials through Ring Central. How much money did we collect yesterday? We look at how many deposits did we collect yesterday. So make sure you're getting, if you take deposits, get those, make sure that you're finalizing the moves, and, paying attention to that daily. We have a daily sales huddle where we go over everybody's bookings from the day before, their talk times, their business development outreach, who they're currently working on with that, any leads that they're currently working on trying to close. We'll do an authority takeover where somebody else from our team will call their lead that they're trying to close that they may have quoted. And, by getting together every day and looking at that KPI on a daily basis, it definitely helps. I also like to look at our cash flow projections for the next several days, especially when it comes to prioritizing certain expenses. There's a report in SmartMoving, Moves by Service Date. If you look at that, you can actually run like a future report for what the estimated amount of revenue that you expect to bring in over the next few days is looking like. Check your availability. How many trucks are you running? How much room do you have? What's your capacity? Adjust your pricing accordingly if your state allows that. Some states don't, because you have to have your rates approved or with a tariff. But in Florida, it's like a hotel or an airline. The more booked up we get, the higher the prices go up. Doesn't matter what time of the year. Obviously summertime, we might run a higher baseline rate, but if we've got, 1 or 2 trucks available for a day at the end of the month or in a week or two or whatever, we have to charge premium prices, because if you're not paying attention to that and you're not paying attention to your availability, then you're going to run into more expenses. When you have to rent trucks, guys are going to get pushed into overtime. You might have to go buy some more pads, equipment, materials to service moves. Your costs go up when you get busier, especially if you're super busy or getting booked up. And so it's really important to charge premium rates during those times to make up for those costs. And you give people that book early with enough advance notice better rates, because you don't have as much going on. But as that schedule starts to fill up, just like an airline, just like a hotel, I believe in basically having those flexible rates that you can go up. And then same thing when it slows down. In the wintertime, you got to get a little bit more aggressive. And, you shouldn't just sell on price, but price is a factor. And if it's a Monday and you got nothing on the books and somebody calls in, something is better than nothing. So do what you need to do to get something on the schedule. And that way you give your guys consistent hours, and, you don't have to stay stubborn on a high rate, and you can have the best salesmanship in the world. But, sometimes the price is a factor. So I like to look at that KPI too. On a weekly basis, we have operations meetings. We'll look at our labor ratios. We want to be under 28%. We just had one today. We do it on Fridays because we process our weekly payroll on Fridays. Our payroll runs Thursday to Wednesday, and then we process it Friday for pay on Monday for the movers. So we know what our most recent pay period that just closed 2 days prior is on Fridays. We want to look at our labor percentages under 28%. This week was really strong. I want to say it was like 21%. But the week before, it was like 28.6%. So it does balance out a little bit over time, but it gives you a good snapshot. Make sure that you're keeping a good finger on your pulse with overtime that you're paying to guys. If you're paying out a bunch of overtime, it's important to pick up on that quickly so that you can schedule somebody else if possible. Sometimes it's not, but definitely pay attention to overtime, because that adds up quite a bit. We also look at fuel percentages on a weekly basis. We make sure that our fuel is under 5% for local moves and under 10% for long distance, because we've caught movers using our fuel cards to put gas in their own trucks. Or, I have never caught somebody doing this, but it certainly isn't impossible that they could be fueling up somebody else's car. Several years ago, back in Gainesville, probably 2018, we actually had given a mover a debit card, and we had him go fill up a truck. And 3 months went by. We weren't paying close attention to our fuel percentages until this was probably first gave this mover a debit card to go put gas in the truck before we had fuel cards in September. And we realized our fuel expenses were creeping up. October, they were, I don't know, maybe 10%, a little too high. Something, didn't pay much mind to it. Maybe it was an off month. And then November, they were 12%. And then by December, they were 16% of our revenue was our fuel costs. And what we actually found is that this guy had gotten a Square reader, and he set up an account called Pilot Travel Station. And he was running our company debit card a little bit at a time until he just started to get greedy. And we caught one day, I started going through all the transactions from the previous month for our fuel. And I saw that there was $600 in fuel on a day that we had one truck going. I was like, what the heck is this? So we went down to the gas station. We tried to pull the footage from the local pilot that was 45 minutes away. And we could not figure it out because they didn't have any record of any transactions, or maybe a couple transactions, but not what we were seeing. And it turns out that he was running our debit card a little bit at a time over the course of 3 months on a Square reader that on our bank statement looked like it was a Pilot travel expense. So needless to say, now we do fuel cards where you can't do that. But definitely something to pay attention to, because even with a fuel card, there are things that can happen. And it's really important to look at those two things, especially on a weekly basis. Also, job profitability reports. SmartMoving can give you a breakdown of every job and the profitability of it. You want to make sure your cost of goods sold on each job is less than 50%, which basically means that the cost to put on that job after labor, fuel, if you have to rent a truck, credit card processing fees, you can even throw sales commissions in there, materials, claims, all that stuff. You need to be profiting over 50% on the jobs, which means your cost of goods sold is less than 50% on all the jobs. And you can run that daily or weekly in SmartMoving, job by job. Ideally, that's a task that we want to get a VA doing. Our GM is the one who's doing it now. It also catches your salespeople if they're, giving away moves just to get a top line commission. I'd love to get to a place where we can pay commission on gross profit and trying to get that reporting dialed in and consistent so that eventually we can go more towards that model so that the salespeople are more incentivized to sell more profitable moves. But good questions, Marcus. Those are just some basic KPIs that we look at. And then, of course, on a monthly basis, look at your P&L. But the thing is, the problem with looking at your P&L on a monthly basis is by the time you catch things that are out of whack, a whole month's gone by, and it's a lot harder to track down where that inefficiency was. So I like to look at stuff on a daily or weekly basis. Let's see, Marcus, tips on how to dominate my hometown and get number one, even over some name brand or hunky competition. That might have been Connor's question, but I'll touch on that one more time. Like name brand or hunky competition, believe me, with a name like Two College Brothers, people confuse us with college hunks all the time. We got similar brands, but we do a different niche. College hunks in our market doesn't do out-of-state moves. They don't have storage. And it seems like their clientele is typically a smaller, like renters, apartments, stuff like that. We're going after the big houses, the luxury brands, and maybe they are too. I don't know their business that well, but I know they don't do some things that we do, like out-of-state moves and storage. And so it's establishing that niche. But when it comes to like some of the other national franchises, the van lines, again, comes down to relationships. Build relationships, because a lot of times those big corporate companies like All My Sons, Two Man and a Truck, whatever, unless they don't, well, maybe a franchise like Two Man and a Truck does, but like a big corporate company typically won't have the owner or somebody who's heavily invested or has some kind of performance pay or equity in the business there. So they're not going out and spending their extra time building those relationships, knocking doors, doing all that stuff that you can do on a local level and a grassroots level and getting as involved in your community. That's why I love the franchise model, because you can get an owner in each market that is 100% owner in that business that is going to go that extra mile and look for those opportunities that the big guys just aren't going to do, because, they don't have that stake in the game. If they've got a manager on a corporate level just running a local location, they're just going to do the pay to play marketing, where referral marketing and grassroots marketing can be low cost or no cost even. And it's just sweat. It's sweat equity. So that's my advice on that side of it. Let's see here. Want to know how to go about getting my first truck so I can get it wrapped and build the brand. So one thing to look into, you could buy a used truck, you could even finance a used truck if you don't have the cash to pay for one up front. But honestly, if you're bootstrapping it like I did early on, and, you don't have the money to buy a very gently used truck or a brand new truck, I recommend looking into the leasing route. Enterprise, Penske, Ryder. I'm sure there's some other ones, Ideal Lease. Enterprise has been great. We've leased trucks through Enterprise. We still lease trucks through Enterprise, and they let you wrap it. They have a Flex E rent plan where you can basically just pay, monthly. I think our monthly rate is like $1,650 per truck in Tampa. It might be different in your market, but we've had a long history with them. So we've been able to negotiate pretty good rates. And then I think it's like 15 cents a mile. If your truck is costing you more than like 20, 25 cents a mile, and that's another important number to track, then it probably makes more sense to lease. And typically a cheap used truck is going to cost more than that in maintenance, because it's going to break. There's going to be issues. Once trucks get over 100,000, 150,000 miles, like you'll start to see some things. And one of the benefits of buying new trucks is a lot of times they come with a warranty, but with a lease truck, they cover all that maintenance for you, and they'll switch out your truck once it hits a certain mileage threshold and give you another brand new truck. So you can go leasing, you go month to month with leasing, you can still wrap it. And then if business takes a turn, you turn in the truck and that's it. You might lose the cost of that wrap, but I think last year we booked 126 moves that were marked as the referral source of Saw the Truck. So that wrap pays for itself very, very quickly. So even if you only have a truck for a year, a wrap is still a good idea to put on the truck because people see it. And we're going to have Dan Antonelli speaking at the next Moving Titan Retreat. I'm setting up a podcast with him right now, but he's the branding expert. He's the Kick Charge creative owner and founder, and he did all of Tommy Mello's branding. He's done a lot of big service companies brandings, and he's got a book out there if you want to just kind of learn his philosophy on it. It's called Branded Not Blanded, that I recently just finished reading. And that's important to have a strong brand on your truck that is friendly, it's welcoming, it stands out. it's different from what the competition's doing. And they do a lot of that market research for you so that you can do something different from what the competition is doing. So definitely recommend branding a truck. That should be one of the first things you do when you get a truck, because you get a lot of business out of it, but it also boosts your credibility when you show up to a customer's home and you show you're not just some chuck in a truck that's running some beater that, looks like crap, because it's a reflection of the service that you provide and it sets the tone for the rest of that move. And also your employee buy-in, if your employees are driving around in old beat up trucks that aren't wrapped, that are just white, blank, dirty, whatever, that's going to carry over into how seriously they take their job and how they do business. So love wrap trucks. Derek Shaw has a really cool concept where he puts funny little catchphrases on there. We did a couple trucks like that. We have one that says "Moving's not a pain in the," and then a picture of a donkey. So people take pictures of that, and it definitely gathers some attention. But also, the rest of them are pretty consistent with our logo. We put QR codes on the truck, so it's at a gas station or parked in front of a house or somebody's behind it in traffic. I see Erin Doyle is on here. Her husband, Brian, gave me that idea. He said he put QR codes on their vehicles for his news stations, and he gets a lot of traffic from those. So there's a whole science to branding a truck, but I definitely recommend it. Something's better than nothing. And but if you're going to spend that much money, do it right. Truck wraps cost anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000, depending on your market. You should be able to get a truck branded for $4,000 to $5,000 though. If somebody's charging you $8,000, you're probably overpaying. Take it to another city where there's cheaper truck wrap people. But it's a great way to just build credibility with your team, with your customers, but also you'll get calls and new business from it that will be a good ROI on that, a good multiple on your return. So definitely recommend doing that and, save up to do it, make it happen, and consider going the leasing option if you don't have a bunch of cash or you can't get financing for something that's brand new or close to being brand new. And then his next question was some of the best lead sources to get me to the $500,000 mark. Postcards alone will get you to the $500,000 mark. I don't know what market you're in, but assuming it's a mid-sized or larger market, postcards will get you there. And then Google LSA. Those should take you to $1 million in a year. $500,000, it says you did 110K your first full year and really want to become a dominant force in my market. 110K, that's still very small. I imagine you're still on the trucks. I'd recommend getting off the trucks as soon as you can, even if you still have to do the sales and the dispatching, because what happens if you're on the trucks, you're missing phone calls, you're not able to get out into the community and do the biz dev stuff and to build those relationships. I know that's tough. It's easier said than done when you're at that stage because you want full control of the business. But man, I used to think back when I had to go on the trucks early on, like, how would I run this business if something catastrophic happened and I was in a wheelchair? If I was going to, unable to physically do, or if I got hurt some other way, like if I was physically unable to do these moves, how would I run this business? And that, it's kind of morbid to think about, but it's a good exercise because then it forces you to think of other ways that you can get off of the trucks, because you're not going to be able to continue to hire, recruit, interview, meet realtors, do presentations, and even answer the phone and book more jobs. One additional job that you can book by not being on the truck, by picking up the phone and doing your follow-ups, is going to pay for the labor to pay a driver and a crew member to go out and cover those jobs. And so, to get to that $500,000 mark, definitely be doing postcards, definitely turn on Google LSA, consider hiring a professional to do it, but also learn it yourself so that you don't get ripped off by a professional. I've seen that all the time where, you have these social media gurus or SEO people or whatever, and they charge you $1,000 a month and nothing happens. You're basically throwing away your money. Mover search marketing is amazing if you want to start building SEO. You probably aren't quite ready to do that with just 110K, but LSA, that'll get your phone ringing right away. And then the postcards, about a 60-day pipeline buildup time, but design a really good postcard and start getting those out daily to every house over $300,000 in your market. That alone will take you to 500K. All right, let's see what else we got. Who else has some questions? Anybody on here that has some more questions? Let's see. What inspired you to start your business? Honestly, I'm just an entrepreneur at heart, I think. I was always trying to start little side hustles in high school and college. But as far as how I got into the moving industry, it's a low barrier to entry. I had a pickup truck and I had access to free posting on Craigslist back in the day. And I found an opportunity just looking for work to make some kind of college money by doing that. And, yeah, I knew I wanted to start a business. I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad probably towards the end of high school, and that pretty much sealed the deal for me. That business ownership was definitely the path that I wanted to pursue. What's the biggest risk you've taken in your entrepreneurial journey? How do you balance innovation with maintaining a stable business model? Well, let's go one at a time here. Biggest risk I've taken, probably the biggest risk I've taken is just starting a business. But I mean, hiring key staff members, giving up some control, I think was at the time what I felt was risky, but really the biggest risk in starting a business is not starting a business, because then you're at risk of losing a job. You're at risk of losing control over your future, your destiny. You got to have thick skin. You do have to have a high risk tolerance, and, just trying different marketing sources that work. But I think just starting a moving company is both a risk to do and a risk not to do, because again, you lose control of your financial future if your job is in somebody else's hand, where if you start any kind of a business, at least you can control that a little better. But it's, it is risky. There's a lot of businesses that fail. You gotta be cut out for it, for sure. It's not for everybody. What's a common misconception about entrepreneurship that you'd like to dispel? I'd say that everybody who owns a business is rich. I just heard on a podcast, on the Brad Lee podcast the other day, that if you don't go broke at least 3 times, then you're not doing big enough things. Sometimes you gotta lose a lot of money in order to learn the right lessons to make a lot of money. So, not everybody who owns a business is rich. Don't believe the hype that you might see on social media. Everybody wants to fake it till they make it, so to speak, but that's probably a big one. How do you approach hiring and building a strong team? I mean, culture comes down to culture. You got to always be looking for, to replace your weakest links. And you got to care about the people that work for you. You got to treat them well. Got to be a good leader. I mean, at the end of the day, there's countless books on that. But I think, A players like to hang out with A players. And if you've got B and C players hanging out with A players, then either the A players are going to, get frustrated and quit, or the B and C players are going to bring them down. So it's always important to try to have a player team. And if you can't get A players, you got to keep looking until you can find some A players, for sure. What role does mentorship play in your entrepreneurial journey? Huge role. That's why I started the podcast. I needed answers. I needed advice. And, by doing the podcast, by going out to the Louis Massaro conferences early on, that was what was the game changer in my business. Let's see. How has the definition of success changed since you started your business? I'd say freedom. I think I always thought success was having $1 million in the bank or whatever. But at the end of the day, that money buys freedom. And I think having the ability to control your destiny, to be able to do what you love, to build something, to be able to have satisfaction with what you do in life, and the freedom to do what you want to do is definitely the definition of success that I foresee. And if anybody else has any questions, I'm running out of questions here, but we're also running out of time. So feel free to drop those in the comments if you have anything. How do you do what you do? By Ring Rob Bell. How do I do it? Just do it. Nike, just do it. You gotta just start somewhere. And you gotta get up every day with that burning desire to go help a bunch of people and to be able to build something great. How do you see the industry evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? That's a great question. Well, I think van lines are dying. I think they're desperate for answers right now. You've got a lot of people that have been doing the same thing the same way for the last 100 years. And whether they're slow to adapt or they're just not willing to adapt, they're going to get pushed out by the independents and by, the people that are figuring out the new economy. The economy has changed even over the last couple of years since COVID, but over the last 20 years especially. And there's a lot of van lines out there, a lot of mom and pops that have been around for forever that are still, trying to do business the old ways. Gone are the days that whoever had the biggest ad in the yellow pages got their frontal ring and won. Digital marketing has totally changed that landscape, but the relationships, a lot of the people that have been doing this for 100 years either don't know how or aren't willing to go out and build the relationships and get down to grassroots. And I think those van lines, you got an older generation of drivers and owner operators and people that are in it that, they're just kind of stuck in their old ways, or maybe they're just getting ready to retire and do something different. I also think that the moving market is primed for a consolidation. There's a big shakeout currently happening, that's been happening since COVID. And I think we're going to start seeing less fragmentation in the industry. And I think it's going to be a different model than what the van lines are running, because they kind of consolidated the industry in the late 20th century. But I think that there's going to be an uprising of independents that rise to the top that start to buy out a lot of the competition, or they put them out of business. I think if the van lines go away, then that's going to open up a huge opportunity for a lot more long distance moving. Consumers are getting way more savvy with being able to do their homework and their diligence on companies with all the different Google review platforms. Somebody could go post a bad video on YouTube if they have a bad experience. They couldn't do that 20 years ago when it was just yellow pages. And now they can, and word travels a lot faster. I think that there's a lot of private equity money that is looking at home services right now. Venture capitalism, private equity, they love the tech industry in like the 2010s. You saw that with Uber, Facebook, Amazon, all these companies that were way overvalued that have since taken off. But that landscape is changing so quickly with AI and with all the self-driving cars and all that stuff that it's risky now. Like Facebook could go away tomorrow. Who knows? Government regulation could come in and call Facebook and X and whatever social medias are out there, could say it's a monopoly and have to break it up. We're already kind of seeing that with TikTok. And a lot of people make a lot of money on TikTok. So, we don't know what's going to happen on the technology. And I think that's scaring away a lot of private equity and a lot of venture capitalism on the tech space. And they're looking at businesses that are likely still going to be around in the next 20 years. And home services is a big one. We've been having a lot of talks with people like Tommy Mello and Louis Massaro and some private equity investors. And I think, they've got their eye on home services, and they've already started doing it with Tommy's business in the garage door industry. They've started doing it with HVAC, pest control, plumbing, electricians. Like that has garnered a lot of interest and investment from private equity. I think moving is primed for there to be a big roll up happening soon. And hopefully we can be at the forefront and get involved with that. That's why we're doing Moving Titans. We're building a community, we're building a platform to bring together these like-minded companies. And if a huge opportunity comes to where instead of getting a 2 to 4x multiple on your business, if you can even get a multiple on your moving company to exit, private equity can come in and roll up a bunch of companies, put them all under the same brand and the same SOPs, potentially even take it public. And that could be $1 billion opportunity. And for the companies that get involved with that kind of a private equity roll up, you could see 20, 30x multiples if you're hitting the right KPIs and your numbers, or your EBITDA is good and all that good stuff. And definitely something I'm exploring a lot, because it's a very fragmented industry still, even with the van lines. And if the van lines go away, we're starting to see apps like bellhops and stuff that are coming in trying to be the Uber of it. But the need is still going to be there. We're not going to have robots moving people anytime soon. We might have self-driving cars. That's going to be very, very expensive in the beginning. But with private equity money, if we're talking about $1 billion roll up, things like self-driving trucks, as soon as they become legal in all 50 states, could become a real thing. And a lot of that expensive technology could basically change the entire industry, and companies that can consolidate or join a movement, so to speak, with a roll up, it could definitely defragmentize our business. So pay attention to that. We're going to be talking a lot about private equity at the upcoming Moving Titan retreat. Let's see, it's 4:30 now, so I'll answer one more question. If anybody's got a question they want to drop, go ahead and do it now. And then we're going to jump off. How do you stay motivated during challenging times? All right, that's a good one to end it on. So I know a lot of moving companies have been going through challenging times with the rising interest rates. Overall, the industry's down about 30%. And you got to just look at it as a blessing, as an opportunity. When things really slowed down last September with, the interest rates finally catching up to us, I looked at it as a great opportunity to tighten up the entire business and ultimately make it stronger in the long haul. And that's just how you have to look at it. You can sit and have a pity party and be a victim, or you can say, I'm going to grab this bull by the horns and I'm going to get after it, and I'm going to dominate this, space. I'm going to do everything that I have to do to make my business as profitable and as tight and as smooth as I possibly can. We're going to resolve the claims. We're going to, run lean. We're going to figure out the best marketing. We're going to get down to grassroots and build those relationships and become a pillar of the community so that we never have a slowdown again and control our own economy. Use it as fire. That's what you have to do when things get tough. And, like I said before, I just heard on a podcast that you don't go broke 3 times in your life as an entrepreneur, then you're not doing something right. You're not thinking big enough, because virtually every successful person that, has gone to 10 million, 100 million, $1 billion has had to go through those times where they didn't know if they were going to be able to keep their lights on, in a month. And that's necessary. Shakeouts are absolutely necessary. And you just have to embrace it. You gotta love it. You gotta love the grind. You gotta love it. And you gotta just be all in and use those as opportunities to tighten up. So with that being said, we're going to jump off, but thank you all for tuning in to the live stream Q&A podcast. This was fun and definitely want to do some more of these. So let me know what you thought, and love your feedback as always. We're going to push this on to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast in the next, probably for next week. So if you missed all or some of this, tune in next Friday and we'll turn this into a podcast. So, hey, have a great weekend, everybody, and a great end of the month if you own a moving company. This is the time to make money. So tighten up. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you would like to learn more about any of the sponsors listed on this show, want to apply for the next Moving Titan retreat, or interested in owning or working for Two College Brothers franchise, drop me a line at wade@twocollegebrothers.com. Moving out. Have a great day.